Okay, so your last video is going to be Chapter 16, America in the New Millennium, and it's going to be from the year 2000 to the present. Now, George W. Bush, his presidency was 2 terms from 2001 to 2009. Now, it starts with a little bit of controversy. Now, his election, this is after Clinton. Clinton was a Democrat, and with the scandal, the vote for the Democrats goes down. Bush is a Republican. So the election of 2000 is going to be Al Gore, which was vice president to Clinton, versus Bush. And then you have your third party, which is Ralph Nader. Of course, we know third parties, it's very rare for them to get elected. Now, Al Gore won the popular vote in the election of 2000. The Supreme Court, however, halted a Florida recount to give Bush the victory. Okay, so this is the first time the Supreme Court actually got involved in halting a recount, a mandatory recount. They didn't want to extend the deadline, so they just cut it short. And ultimately, Bush wins the election. Now, as president, he creates something known as No Child Left Behind, and this is mandatory state testing. You can thank him for your EOCs from grades 3rd grade to 8th grade, right? And that's to make sure that everybody's on level, that no child will be left behind. That's the whole purpose behind this. The terrorist attacks in his first term, 9/11, 01 at World Trade Center and Pentagon. Bush declares a war on terror. He creates the Department of Homeland Security, and he sponsored the United States Patriot Act, which allows the government to intervene or to look through your emails, track phone calls, track you, so on and so forth, in response to any threats that may be terroristic threats. Okay, so that's the USA Patriot Act. Now, the war in Iraq, coalition forces invade Iraq. The main reason we are in Iraq is because we're looking for weapons of mass destruction. Ultimately, to this day, we know that there were no weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein gets toppled from power, ultimately. And then in 2008, there's a financial crisis. A lot of people aren't able to pay their mortgages, which are their home loans, and the housing market crashes. With interest rates rising, it's very difficult for homeowners to pay their bills, so the economy goes down. So it sets off a sharp decline. So all this happened under George W. Bush. Now, also Hurricane Katrina in 2005, I want to say 2005, 80% of New Orleans was underwater. And the reality behind this is that you have too much pressure for the levees. If you know anything about New Orleans, is that it is kind of in like a bowl. You have the Mississippi River that flows alongside, but it's, higher up. The levees ended up breaking, and that's what ultimately caused 80% of New Orleans to flood. Now, what took forever was help getting to New Orleans victims or Katrina victims. FEMA took forever to actually get there, meaning we really weren't ready for a national crisis like Katrina. So ultimately, we end up, speeding up the process and help. And FEMA, of course, will get better over time. And we saw that with Superstorm Sandy last year in New York, how it was much easier to kind of bounce back from that natural disaster. Now, Barack Obama presidency in 2000 to the present. Obama wins the election. He's the first African American elected president. He promised change. He passed the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Okay, and this is going to help boost the economy. It's going to get federal funds back into the economy. He proposed healthcare reform. We know that as Obamacare, and it just passed this year, last year. Banking and credit reform through Congress. Sonia Sotomayor was appointed to the Supreme Court. She is the first Hispanic on the Supreme Court, and she's a female as well. And he sought to exercise moral leadership in U.S. foreign affairs, to do what is right for the people. Okay? Now, the United States living in a global age, technology-wise, we are the leader, quote unquote. GPS, LED, integrated circuits, computers, so on and so forth. Assembly line robotics, just-in-time production. Now, what is just-in-time production? This is when parts arrive at a precise time in the manufacturing process. They are needed by workers. The ability of the computers to track inventory has made this technique, which requires precise communication, possible. Okay, so that is just-in-time production. And then it leads to time study analysis. This was first developed more than 50 years ago. A trained observer records how long it takes a qualified worker to perform a particular task at a given rate or speed of working. This information then helps managers to improve production methods and to become more efficient. So time study analysis and just-in-time production. Okay. Now the computer revolution, the United States is the leader in supercomputing. And U.S. demographics, that is how many people, demographics deals with population. How many people live in the United States? What is their race? What's their age? Going back to your freshman year. Demographics. Now, legal and illegal immigration in the United States has, its issues. The immigration problem that we have today, especially in a couple of border states, has become the main issue for the platforms that most political parties run on. The population has actually doubled since 1950, and the greatest growth would be along the Sun Belt. Again, anything from Texas to Florida all the way to California, the sunny states. Now, America's influence in global economy, you have multinational corporations like Coca-Cola. These are your companies doing business all over the world, all right? All over the world. And again, going back to your freshman year, something known as globalization. Companies, businesses worldwide. Companies and businesses worldwide. Managing the environment, a rise in pollution threaten the environment. Energy, growing population, and rising living standards raise demands for energy, right? Become more energy efficient. This is where we started to strive for more energy efficient technology and electronics, so on and so forth. And the last one, the impact of American culture on the world. It's passed through music, television, movies, the internet, uh, and the things that other countries, adopt from us is the style, the dress, style, foods, and music.